What do you do when your dream business starts slipping through your fingers, and no one will tell you the truth? Malcolm Norris bought the fast food chain 8 years ago from a retiring couple who built it from scratch. Back then, there were only 6 locations. Now, there were 20 spread across 3 states. Growth was good on paper. Sales had been steady, and the reports from district managers looked fine. But something wasn't sitting right. Customer complaints had quietly crept up over the past year. Not outrageous ones, just little things: long wait times, cold food, short-staffed shifts. Also, turnover was getting worse. Young workers weren't sticking around. Malcolm had asked his district managers about it, but all he got was polished explanations. Seasonal shifts, school schedules, normal Gen Z stuff. He didn't buy it. "I want to see it myself," Malcolm had told his assistant 2 weeks ago. "Pick a location. Random. Don't tell anyone. I'll go in as a new trainee." They picked store 14, a busy spot in a mid-sized town. He'd never been to this one. None of the employees or store managers had met him in person. The chain was big enough now that most locations only saw district-level visits. He shaved his beard, wore thick glasses, dyed the sides of his hair gray, and used his brother's last name on the application, Malcolm Neely. Training was scheduled for Friday afternoon. He showed up 10 minutes early wearing a faded hoodie and khakis. A girl behind the register nodded at him without much interest, chewing gum. "You the new guy?" "Yeah. Malcolm," he said. She pointed behind her. "Go through the kitchen doors. Ask for Troy." He stepped into the kitchen. It was hot, louder than expected: sizzling fryers, clanging metal, and an overworked ice cream machine making a painful noise. 2 teenagers were flipping burgers and tossing fries while juggling drive-through orders. A short man with a clipboard and Bluetooth headset was barking out directions. "Troy?" Malcolm asked. The man glanced up. "You the trainee?" "Yeah." Troy didn't smile. "Go to the back. Gloves, apron, hairnet. Then you're on grill. Hope you're a fast learner. No welcome. No tour. No safety rundown." Malcolm kept quiet and did as he was told. 10 minutes later, he was beside a kid who looked no older than 16, sweating over the grill. "I'm Malcolm," he said. "Zayden," the kid replied, voice tired. "This your first day?" "Yeah." Zayden nodded. "Good luck." The next 4 hours were brutal. Orders came in non-stop. Troy hovered like a hawk, barking corrections, never helping. Zayden worked like someone twice his age, fast, focused, never complained. But when his shift ended at 7, Troy blocked him at the back exit. "Clock back in," Troy said. Zayden looked confused. "I already did 6 hours. We're short. You stay until close." Zayden looked down. "But I got school tomorrow." "My mom," I said. "Clock in." "You want those hours or not?" Malcolm watched the kid nod and disappear back into the kitchen. He looked drained. Not just tired, worn out, like this wasn't the first time. Later, during a break, Malcolm sat with a girl named Vanessa who handled fries and prep. "Zayden always get asked to stay late?" he asked casually. "All the time," she said, not looking up from her sandwich. "Troy says we're short, but he just doesn't want to get called in. So he makes the younger ones stay. We're all scared to say no 'cause he cuts hours if you talk back." Malcolm kept his voice level. "Has anyone reported it?" "To who?" "District guy only comes once a month and Troy's always on his best behavior then. Nobody listens to us." Malcolm leaned back, heart pounding. He had trusted his management chain, trusted that things were being handled fairly. But this was different. This was kids being pushed too far. He rubbed his temples, trying not to let his anger show. He stayed until close, helping clean the grill and sweep the floors. Zayden barely spoke the last 2 hours. He looked pale. When they finally shut off the lights, Malcolm watched as the kid stepped outside and sat on the curb, head in his hands. Troy didn't say goodnight to anyone. Just grabbed a to-go bag and left. Back in his car, Malcolm sat in silence. He had seen enough. Tomorrow, he was coming back. Not as Malcolm Neely. As the owner. The next morning, Malcolm stepped into store 14 at exactly 10:30, dressed in a crisp white button-down, dark jeans, and a weathered leather satchel slung across his shoulder. His beard was back, glasses gone. He didn't bother announcing himself to the register staff. Instead, he walked straight past the counter and pushed through the kitchen doors. Troy was standing at the prep counter, leaning with one elbow on a stack of empty trays, scrolling through his phone while two crew members scrambled behind him trying to keep up with early lunch orders. He didn't look up. Malcolm cleared his throat. Troy glanced up, still scrolling. "You need something?" Malcolm's voice was calm. "Yeah. I need you to put that phone down." Troy's hand froze. He looked up fully now, scanning Malcolm's face. Confused for a second, then recognition dawned. "You're that," his voice caught. "You're the owner." Malcolm nodded slightly. "Let's talk." "Office. Now." Troy straightened up and led the way, stiff-backed. The office was cramped, a metal desk wedged between filing cabinets and a wall calendar still stuck on April. Malcolm closed the door behind them and remained standing. "Sit," he said. Troy sat, visibly tense. "You've been running the store for how long?" 14 months. "And in that time, how many staff have quit?" Troy hesitated. "Turnover's always kinda high in this industry." I asked how many. "Maybe 20? Give or take." Malcolm stared at him. "You're short-staffed constantly, yet you're pushing 16-year-olds past legal hour limits, threatening to cut shifts if they say no, and you're not even stepping in to help when it's chaos out there." Troy opened his mouth, but Malcolm held up a hand. "I saw it. I worked your line last night under a different name. I watched you ignore your team while they ran themselves into the ground. I watched you coerce a minor into staying past his scheduled shift. That's illegal. Not just unethical. Illegal." Troy swallowed hard. "I didn't mean for it to. You meant exactly what you did," Malcolm said. "I'm not here to argue. You're done. Hand me your keys." Troy's face drained of color. "Wait, hold on, I can fix this. I've just been under pressure with staffing, and the holidays coming up. No one's pressuring you to exploit kids. Keys. Now." Troy slowly reached into his pocket and set a ring of keys on the desk. Malcolm didn't thank him. He opened the door and called out to the girl at the register. "Vanessa, can you come here for a moment?" She appeared quickly, eyebrows raised when she saw Troy sitting pale and silent. "This is Vanessa," Malcolm said. "She's going to help hold things down until I assign an interim manager. She knows the kitchen flow. I'll oversee payroll and scheduling myself for now." Vanessa blinked. "Wait, did he just get?" "Yes," Malcolm said firmly. "Effective immediately." Troy stood up slowly. "So that's it?" Malcolm didn't answer. Troy walked out without another word. Back in the kitchen, Malcolm pulled the team together during a lull. 5 employees gathered near the grill: Vanessa, Zayden, a tall boy named Luis, a quiet girl named Trinity, and an older man with a limp who'd been mopping the back all morning. "I'm Malcolm Norris," he said. "I own this company. I came in undercover yesterday because I stopped trusting the reports I was getting." No one spoke. Zayden's eyes widened slightly, but he said nothing. "First," Malcolm continued, "I owe you an apology. You've been working in an environment that doesn't respect your time, your effort, or your rights. That ends today." The older man spoke up. "You really the owner?" "Yes." He nodded slowly. "Good. 'Cause this place used to run right. Then Troy came and everything got mean." Malcolm turned to Zayden. "How old are you?" 16. "Do you have your parents' permission to work past certain hours?" "No. My mom said I can't." "But..." Troy made it sound like I didn't have a choice. "You always have a choice," Malcolm said. "And starting now, no one will ever threaten your hours again." Zayden didn't reply, but his shoulders relaxed slightly. Malcolm looked around. "I'm not firing everyone. I know who's trying their best. But I will be making changes. Some of them today." He spent the next 2 hours working alongside them. He took over the fryer while Vanessa handled orders and pointed out shift gaps. Trinity, who barely spoke at first, quietly began explaining how she'd been covering early morning prep without support for weeks. Luis admitted he'd been clocking out early just to keep the store under budget because Troy told him to keep labor lean. As the lunch rush came and went, Malcolm made notes. Not just about operations, but about people. Who took initiative? Who watched out for others? Who checked the food temp without being told? By mid-afternoon, he called in his regional HR manager, Jasmine, to help reorganize the schedule. They moved Zayden back to legal hours immediately and gave Trinity 2 consistent days off per week starting next pay cycle. Vanessa got a temporary pay bump for stepping up, and Luis was told to never clock out early again without proper authorization. In the back corner, the older janitor named tag read Wallace was wiping down the mop bucket when Malcolm approached him. "You said things used to run right here." "Who was manager before Troy?" "Carmen," Wallace said. "She transferred to another store when Troy got promoted. She ran a tight ship but fair. People stayed, even the kids." Malcolm made a note. "Where is she now?" "Store 7. About an hour south." Malcolm nodded. "Thanks, Wallace." By 5 o'clock, the store was running more smoothly than it had in weeks. Malcolm didn't leave. He stayed through dinner rush, helping with cleanup, coaching employees on prep standards, and reviewing the walk-in fridge, which he discovered was out of temperature compliance. A call was made to maintenance on the spot. At closing, Zayden approached him in the parking lot, backpack slung over one shoulder. "Thanks for saying all that stuff earlier." "You don't have to thank me," Malcolm replied. "You were doing your job. I wasn't doing mine. That's what needed to change." Zayden hesitated. "You coming back tomorrow?" Malcolm smiled faintly. "Yeah, I'll be here. We've got more to fix." He watched the boy walk toward his mom's car, which was idling at the curb. The brake lights flicked on as they pulled away. Malcolm turned back toward the store. Tomorrow, he'd call Carmen and ask if she was open to coming back. But tonight, he wasn't thinking about logistics. He was thinking about a 16-year-old who had been forced to carry more weight than any kid should, and how easy it had been for that truth to get buried under a stack of polished reports. That wouldn't happen again. By Monday morning, Malcolm was back at store 14. This time, he wore a simple black polo with the company's embroidered logo, not flashy, but enough to signal authority without intimidation. The team was quieter than usual, waiting to see what kind of boss he really was now that Troy was gone. No one said it aloud, but the tension was there in the way they watched him when they thought he wasn't looking, the way Zayden kept glancing toward the door like someone might walk in and reverse everything. He didn't call a meeting. Instead, he stepped onto the line and began working the grill without a word. After 10 minutes of flipping patties and assembling sandwiches, he addressed the room without looking up. "I'm not here to play savior," he said. "I'm here to fix what I ignored. That means staying in this store until it runs right again. You don't have to like me, just be honest." No one answered, but the rhythm of the kitchen picked up. Movement became sharper. Focus returned. At 11:30, Jasmine returned with Carmen. Carmen was in her early 40s, sharp-eyed, with a deliberate calm about her. She wore a navy blouse and jeans, clipboard tucked under her arm. Her stare swept the kitchen once before she caught Malcolm's eye. "Didn't expect to be back here," she said, walking up beside him. "I need someone who knows the bones of this place," Malcolm replied. "You built a solid team once. Can you do it again?" "That depends," she said plainly. "Am I walking into cleanup or a cover-up?" "Cleanup," he said. "No spin." She nodded once. "Then I'm in. But I want full personnel control. I don't do damage control with one hand tied behind my back." "You'll have it." She turned toward the team. "Shift leads, come talk to me after lunch rush. I need a clear picture, not just numbers." By early afternoon, Carmen had already spotted 3 problem points: inventory miscounts, shift overlap gaps, and a prep list that hadn't been updated in weeks. She didn't raise her voice or point fingers. She assigned, adjusted, and moved on. Malcolm stayed on the floor. A woman named Dee, who usually worked night shifts, had been called in to fill a midday gap. She was fast, efficient, but unusually quiet. "You all right?" Malcolm asked as they refilled sauces during a lull. Dee hesitated. "I'm good." He didn't push. "If that ever changes, let me know." She nodded, but he caught the guarded edge in her voice. Something was off. At 3 o'clock, Carmen called him into the back office. She had a short list in her hand. "2 things," she said. "First, Wallace isn't a janitor. He's on crew, scheduled for kitchen. Troy pulled him off the line weeks ago and stuck him on cleaning detail. No write-up, no explanation." Malcolm furrowed his brow. Why? Carmen looked at him steadily. Wallace's gait is slow. He's got an old knee injury. Troy didn't like how he moved on the line. Said it slowed everyone down. Didn't even talk to him, just shifted him off the schedule and let him mop. Malcolm's jaw tightened. That's not just wrong. That's a liability. She nodded. I already spoke with HR. Wallace has the right to file a grievance. We've got documentation gaps, though. I'd suggest moving quickly to rectify. Done. What's the second? She handed him a sheet of notes. D. She's been passed over for 2 promotions. Her performance is solid, punctual, and she trains new hires without being asked. But Troy kept her on closing shifts and never allowed her to apply for lead. Why? Carmen hesitated. There's no way to say this clean. He told another manager she had the wrong look for front-end leadership. That she didn't match the face of the brand. Malcolm's stomach sank. You're sure? I spoke with the other manager. She confirmed it. Didn't want to bring it up because she was afraid of retaliation. Malcolm didn't hesitate. Jasmine's still in the building? She's with the crew going over compliance checklists. Get her. Now. 10 minutes later, Jasmine joined Malcolm and Carmen in the office. He relayed the facts briefly, without raising his voice. Jasmine's expression darkened with every sentence. I'll draft a formal internal memo and flag this for legal, she said. We'll document everything, but you need to speak with Dee directly. She deserves to hear it from you. I will. That evening, after the dinner rush had died down, Malcolm asked Dee to join him in the office. She looked confused, but followed without hesitation. He closed the door behind them and stayed standing. I owe you an explanation, he said. She raised an eyebrow. About what? We found out why you weren't offered the shift lead promotions. It wasn't based on performance. It was discrimination. Dee tensed. He said something, didn't he? Yes, Malcolm said. And there's no excuse for it. I want to offer you the lead position immediately. If you're willing. She stared at him. That's not just a pay bump. That's ours responsibility. It changes things. I know. She crossed her arms. I'm not saying no. I just don't want this to be some panic fix. I want to know that if I take this, I'll be backed up when it counts. You will, Malcolm said. And Carmen is here to make sure of that. She'll be your direct support. Dee nodded slowly. All right. Then I'm in. They shook hands. By the end of the week, changes were visible. The crew had a new prep system posted by the walk-in. Wallace was back in the kitchen, working cold station with a steady rhythm. Zayden's shifts were capped at legal limits, and he was visibly more alert, more engaged. Dee had taken over closing lead, and Vanessa was training under Carmen to become assistant manager. But there was still tension. Trust didn't rebuild overnight. Malcolm heard it in the way some crew members still hesitated before speaking up. In the way they scanned the room before offering suggestions. Thursday night, Carmen pulled him aside after closing. They don't know if you'll stay, she said bluntly. You came in hot, tore down the bad guy, made some changes. But they're waiting for you to disappear. That's what always happens. He nodded. Then I don't disappear. You staying here permanently? No. But I'm not vanishing either. I'll rotate through stores. Randomly. I'll work shifts quietly. No fanfare. Carmen considered that. That'll help. But just know it's not your name on the schedule that keeps people honest. It's consistency. You give them that, they'll meet you halfway. Malcolm leaned against the counter, arms folded. I thought I built something strong. But I let it grow too fast without checking the roots. You're checking now, she said. That's the only part that matters. He stayed until the last light was turned off, walking the floor twice, once with Carmen and once alone. The fryer was clean. The prep logs were updated. The door to the walk-in was sealed tight. Friday morning would bring another rush, another test. But this time, they were ready. And this time, everyone would be seen. The following Monday, Malcolm walked into store 14 just after sunrise. Carmen was already there, leaning over the manager's desk with a mug of black coffee and a stack of new hires applications. She didn't look up right away. We're still short 3 bodies, she said, flipping the top page. But I screened 5 yesterday. 2 might stick. Anyone with kitchen experience? 1. Dishwasher at a diner for a year. The others are green but not clueless. Malcolm nodded. Let's move fast. I'll handle onboarding this morning. He stepped out to the dining area. It was empty except for Wallace wiping down tabletops. No music, just the hum of refrigeration and the occasional squeak of the mop bucket wheels. The quiet suited the place. It gave it a kind of honesty. Luis showed up next, followed by Trinity. They were both on prep this morning, and while they didn't say much, they moved with purpose. Carmen had restructured the shifts to balance out the load, but it was still tight. Everyone had to pull more than their weight. By 9, the new hire showed up. Name was Isaiah, tall, maybe 18, soft-spoken. Malcolm walked him through the back line setup, explaining their priorities. Food safety, consistency, pacing. He didn't sugarcoat the pressure. We move fast here, Malcolm said. But we don't cut corners, and no one gets left behind. If you don't know something, you speak up. You'll be trained, not tested. Isaiah nodded. I'm good with pressure. Just want to work. That afternoon brought the usual lunch search. Carmen was running expo, calling out orders with clipped efficiency. Malcolm stayed on grill, letting Zayden focus on sandwich assembly. They kept the line moving, but barely. Halfway through, Vanessa slipped out of the drive-through booth and pulled Malcolm aside behind the walk-in. There's something I think you should know, she said, voice low. One of Troy's old friends came by last night. He doesn't work here, but he was hanging around in the lot, talking to Dee on her break. Did he say anything to her? I didn't hear it all, but it looked tense. She brushed him off eventually and went back inside. But he waited in the lot for a while after. Just parked there. Didn't order anything. Malcolm's expression hardened. If he shows up again, you come straight to me or Carmen. No discussion. Vanessa nodded. I will. He found Dee mid-shift, restocking sauces near the front. She was quiet but alert, sleeves rolled up, headset clipped to her collar. You all right to talk? He asked. She gave him a quick glance. Yeah. I figured you'd hear about it. Who was he? She sighed and looked past him. Old friend of Troy's. Used to pick him up sometimes. Nothing official, just someone who liked to hang around. He's the one who told Troy I wasn't right for the front. Has he done this before? Once. A week ago. Just stare through the window. I didn't say anything 'cause I figured he'd get bored and leave. Malcolm shook his head. You shouldn't have to deal with that. Not here. I'm installing cameras in the lot today. And if he shows up again, we call the police. Dee's jaw tightened. I'm not trying to cause drama. I just want to work. You are working, he said. He's the problem. Not you. By 4, the maintenance team had arrived to install new dome cameras above the rear entrance and the parking lot corners. Malcolm stayed while they worked, answering questions, signing off on placements. Carmen handled the floor in the meantime, keeping things steady. At 6, the dinner crowd rolled in, families, high school kids, a few truckers. The line moved well. Isaiah was already handling the fryer. He was green, but he listened, stayed focused, asked when he wasn't sure. Carmen gave him a nod as she passed, rare praise from her. Wallace had returned to Cold Station, prepping toppings without missing a beat. He moved slower than the others, but nothing was out of place. Malcolm noticed Trinity quietly placing ingredients within easier reach for him without saying a word. That kind of teamwork couldn't be taught. After close, Malcolm and Carmen locked up together. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed. Felt stronger tonight, she said. Still understaffed, but the floor's more stable. It's holding, Malcolm agreed. But it's not done. She nodded toward the door. Dee's staying late to train Isaiah. Her idea. I saw. She's owning it. She's not the only one. Carmen pulled out a small envelope from under the register. Wallace found this in the back. It's from Zayden. Left it in the break room. Inside was a folded sheet of notebook paper. On it, in neat handwriting, was a single sentence, thanks for listening when it would have been easier not to. Malcolm read it twice. Then he folded it and tucked it into his shirt pocket. The next morning, Jasmine arrived with finalized HR paperwork for 2 hires. She also brought news from corporate. Store 14's labor violation audit had come back clean. No further action required, but training protocols would be reviewed across the entire region. "We're rewriting onboarding," she told Malcolm as they stepped outside. "Legal wants stronger language around shift limits for minors. Clearer escalation paths too." "Good," he said. "Make it real, not just another checkbox." That afternoon, Malcolm called a meeting during a lull. No formal speeches. Just the crew gathered in the dining area, leaning against counters and sipping water. "I won't be here every day going forward," he said. "But I will be around. Random visits. Real shifts. I won't announce them." The room was quiet, but no one looked surprised. "You've shown me what the store can be," he continued. "Not because I stepped in, but because you kept showing up even when it was hard. That doesn't go unnoticed anymore." He turned to Dee. "You've got a full team lead schedule starting next week. Carmen's already signed off. You'll train new hires and handle closing reports." Dee gave a short nod, not smiling, but her shoulders settled. "Wallace, HR approved your back pay adjustment. You were underutilized for nearly 2 cycles. That's being corrected." Wallace didn't say anything, just gave a small salute. "And Vanessa," Malcolm said. "You've got a decision to make. Carmen thinks you're ready for assistant manager training." "I agree." Vanessa blinked. "Wait, really? I don't hand titles out," Carmen said flatly. "You earned it. But it's more hours, more stress." "You sure?" Vanessa straightened. "Yeah, I'm sure." Malcolm let the silence settle. Then he spoke again. "If you ever feel like something's broken, don't wait for someone to fix it. Speak. We can't solve what we don't see." That night, he didn't close with them. He walked out just before 7 while the sun was still lingering in the sky. As he stepped into his truck, he glanced back at the window. Inside, Zayden was on sandwich line, moving with more ease than Malcolm had ever seen. He didn't need to stay until the lights went out. They had it from here.